Good evening and welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of October 30th, 2025. I'd ask at this time everyone stand so we can pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd ask that you all remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our soldiers past and present. Thank you.
Mr. Medeiros? Hi. I just wanted to let you know I'm Heidi Silva Brooks. I'm the chair of the Select Board, but tonight I'm attending this meeting as an abutter
All right.
to this first project.
Thank you. All right, so I have to make a few announcements myself. First is, this meeting is being recorded by Dartmouth Community Media, and our next regular scheduled meeting is on for Thursday. It's scheduled for Thursday, November 13th at 5:00 p.m. here at Town Hall in room 304. And moving on to tonight's public hearings portion of the meeting, the first matter that we have on is variance case ZAV 25-10. The petitioner applicant is Jenny Reynolds. The owner is Ryan Brodovich and Tracy Noonan trustees, and also 8 Bono Court LLC. The subject property is located at 8 Bono Court, also known as map 121, lot 19. It's located within the general residence district, and this matter was advertised, legally advertised on October 9th and October 16th.
I make a motion that we waive the reading of the abutters list.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. If anyone would like to see the abutters list, it is filed at the Zoning Board of Appeals office. You can speak to Michelle. She'd be more than glad to present it to you for review. Anyone in the audience or anyone at home. In this particular case, the petitioner is seeking a variance for front setback relief of 11.9 feet from the required 20-foot setback from the street. The request pertains to a proposed 576 square foot addition to an existing single-family dwelling originally constructed in 1950. They're seeking relief on the Article 375-10.4 D3B, setbacks, exemptions from setback requirements. I have some comments that I have to read into the record from other town boards. Let's see. I have a, just move things around. Yeah. First I have from the Board of Health, as this residence is on town water and sewer, at the time of any building permit application, the Dartmouth Board of Health would make the following comment relative to any demolition. Please be advised, this following statement is making you aware that asbestos is a mineral and was until 2024, a component in a wide range of residential and commercial building materials. The presence of asbestos is a building material, in a building material, cannot be determined by eye since it is microscopic. Furthermore, asbestos fibers cannot be detected with the human eye without the aid of a specialized laboratory equipment. Additionally, asbestos containing building materials are often believed to be limited to boilers, pipe insulation, cement-like siding, and smaller floor tiles commonly called 9x9 tiles. Asbestos is found in more materials than previously listed and includes but not limited to roofing, building papers, roof patches and sealants, window glazing, transit panels, floor tiles of all dimensions, rolled flooring, flooring mastics, undercoating on sinks, mastics or sealants, electrical wiring on older homes, electrical panels, paint in certain applications, drywall, joint compound, popcorn ceiling, and vermiculite insulation. Well, I'm learning something. 310 CMR 7.15 requires a licensed asbestos inspector to survey all suspect asbestos containing materials to be disturbed by this project. Furthermore, you may be asked by an agent of Mass DEP to provide the results of the inspection from the DLS licensed asbestos inspector. If asbestos is encountered within the building materials survey, the disturbance and disposal is strictly regulated as specified in 310 CMR 7.15. Failure to conduct the inspection may result in significant cost to the property owner and/or notices of noncompliance from Mass DEP. The completion of this step by this office shall not constitute an exemption of the provisions of 310 CMR 715, nor shall this action be considered an approval by this office. By completion of this step, this office may share information on this project with Mass DEP for follow-up on the results of the required asbestos-containing material survey. All right, so I think really the applicant was the one who should have heard most, they should have heard most of this, and I think that they have an engineer. Obviously, we'll bring it to their attention. From Conservation, an order of conditions was issued under NOI 25-30 or FN 15-2797 by Mark J. Garrett, EAC. And DPW basically says, DPW response language to permit applications, compliance with the following DPW regulations, rules, and specifications will be required, but not limited to the following. These are their usual standards. I'm looking at them now. It also says, DPW's completion of this step does not imply compliance with other town bylaws, regulations, ordinances, standards, or requirements administered by the DPW or the town agencies. And the fire department says, upgrade to the entire dwelling to meet Mass Building Code 780 for smoke, heat, and CO detectors to be placed where required. All right, so those are the town's comments that they have on this project. So I think we have an issue. Doesn't appear to me that the petitioner, well, maybe it's a little presumptuous of me. Is the petitioner on this application present here this evening? Well, they're not here. So obviously, we have people it appears to me, probably have local neighbors, abutters, who are here to comment. So we have one of two choices, gentlemen. We can hear from the petitioner first, and then open it up and that's what we typically do. We hear from the applicant, so we know exactly what they're asking for, because sometimes projects change based on, in their newly submitted plans, or things that they're willing to retract from. Or we can hear, because we don't have the petitioner here tonight, we can hear from the members of the neighborhood, but I think it would be, well, we can hear from the members of the neighborhood as to what their concerns or their comments may be. But usually I find that to be beneficial because they are able to hear it and then make maybe possible adjustments and whatnot. I'm open to any type of suggestions from anyone here on the board. Oh, I'm supposed to read the building inspector letter as well. So this is what gave rise to why we're here. This is a letter from our building inspector, and this was to Jenny Reynolds of Prime Engineering. I have reviewed your application, and at this time, your proposal cannot be approved due to noncompliance with current zoning regulations. Applicant is seeking to add a 576 square foot addition, 11.9 feet from the street of an existing dwelling built in 1950. A variance is required to have the front setback reduced to 11.9 from the required 20 feet. Your application is being denied under the following sections of the Dartmouth zoning bylaw, 375-10.4 D3B, which says, in addition, buildings or structures may be placed a minimum of 10 feet from all other perimeter lot lines or 20 feet from a street line if the lot upon which the building or structure is to be located was in existence prior to October 26, 1993. The benefit of this exemption is available to lots which already had buildings or structures located thereon prior to October 26, 1993. The subject property is located in a general residence district. It's not signed, but it's from our building inspector's office. Thank you. All right, gentlemen, so I'm open to any suggestions as to whether, I know we have a lot of people here that I'm sure that they would like to speak, but obviously we want to make good use of time for everyone interested in this. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but,
If you don't appear for your hearing, petition should be dismissed.
well, that's obviously another thing that we can entertain. I guess maybe it was a little presumptuous of me. I was considering, giving the applicant an opportunity to come back another day. And we've always been very inclined to do that.
I'm inclined to do that too.
We
Okay, hold on. I'll give you an opportunity. We're still discussing here, okay? I haven't opened it up for public comment, but I will, at least for some preliminary discussion at this point. So I guess we get a sense, just there may be people traveling for this, and I get that. So we've got a couple options here. We can, one, I guess, open it up for public comment and decide whether or not we want to continue it. We can decide we want to continue it and not open up for public comment. Or we could decide that we just want to deny it outright, and we could deny it without prejudice, and then allow them to come forward and actually formally present it. But we're just dealing with coming back another day anyway. So either way, it'd probably be coming back, if they really want to do this, and we deny it, and I wouldn't deny it with prejudice, but it depends. I'm only one person on this board. We collectively make a decision.
I think to be consistent, we're always being consistent in the past, that we give the applicant a chance. We don't know, could have been on his way here and got into a car accident or whatever, we don't know, we don't want to assume. But to be fair also for the abutters, and, they hear, and some of them travel from other states, I think we can hear the concerns, open the hearing, but obviously we wouldn't have any answers. We can't answer anything on behalf of the petition, but we can, it's clearly advertised that there's an addition that doesn't meet the setback, and that's what they're here for, setback relief. So we can talk about this and get some feedback and continue.
Nothing's been presented. What are you gonna talk about? That's the problem that I foresee.
Well, he's asking for relief on
He's
the
not
front.
asking
setback.
for anything.
Well, it's advertised, it's right here. It's
I
advertised on the
understand that.
paper. Yeah, that's why he's here.
So the thing is we are a quasi-judicial board, so, and the thing is, and I think my brother here is taking more of the judicial approach of how this would be handled. A judge would say, just because you filed papers doesn't mean that you've made a presentation. Correct. And I agree with that.
No, I'm not an attorney.
No, I get that, but also, we've always been very accommodating to,
have.
I have never, in the over 10 years, I think close to 10 years that I've been here. More than 10? All right, it's more than 10.
We've never denied an application on first.
Anyway, so we've never
absent,
denied an
right.
application on the first time that the person's been absent. So I think, based on the fact that they haven't made a presentation, there's really nothing for us to hear. We would either agree to continue it, or we would have a motion put forth, and I can't make a motion, but a motion put forth to just deny it outright. But keeping in mind, if it were gonna be denied, I would only vote on it if it was without prejudice. Because again, we don't know, this man could be rushing people to the hospital or whatever. So we'd deny it without prejudice, and if they want to come forward, they just got to refile.
Right. We did try to reach them, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I called his
so
cell
you-
phone and I sent a text.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment here?
Absolutely.
It's my understanding we didn't hear from anybody?
Well, when you say didn't hear it, they filed an application.
I understand
Right?
that,
They've got
but
a pre-submitted, they've got a pretty extensive narrative supporting their application, which is not something we get from many of the applicants. They hired an engineering office, a professional engineering office, that put forth on paper a pretty extensive application. So beyond that, we would have expected them to be here. The only thing I can think of is maybe there's an emergency, or there also could be a miscommunication or the misunderstanding, on their part, thinking that they're supposed to be here for 6. We have historically always been on for 6. We've not been doing it ever since the 40Bs have been applied, because we're gonna be dealing with the 40Bs at 6 o'clock.
But in the portal, I put.
In a port, I get it. Look, I'm sure I'm not saying it
No,
wasn't
I'm just
properly
saying,
advertised.
because they
No,
responded to,
I'm not saying, but sometimes people are creatures of habit. And just habitually, it's always been 6 o'clock. That's all. I'm only just trying to provide, not trying to argue for the engineering office.
Mr. Chair, I suggest we give it a new date.
So
So we continue.
yeah, all I need is but let me just say this. So, obviously, the people in the audience, you've heard our rationale here, all right? You may not agree with it, I get that. But we have had sort of I'm not gonna say it's a policy, but it's sort of, something we followed. It's been something that we followed in providing people the courtesy of at least one more opportunity to come before us. It doesn't happen that often. We had one not that long ago, Thatcher Street. We extended them a further date. Not only that, we then wrote a letter saying we had an emergency, couldn't be here on that date, and we continued that again, but that's on for December, I believe. So,
When is the next available hearing that we?
I don't know.
That's what we need to know.
We can do December 11th, unless you
December
want to put them on another 40B day. We have.
We can put them on for January if we want at this point.
Yeah.
We could actually just take some comments
would
as to
be-
whether or not what date would probably work best for, and I think that that's where we're probably gonna head with that now.
Okay.
You can come forward, Ms. Brooks.
Clarifying question. Previously, abutters had sent letters to the Conservation Commission because Conservation has looked at this matter. Are you in receipt of those letters, the concerns of the neighbors?
Yes, well, it's only from two neighbors. Well, two neighbors, just.
One neighbor.
Well, it's
It's
one,
one neighbor,
it's a
two
husband and a
others.
wife, I believe,
Yeah.
right?
Yes,
Sean and
correct.
Pamela?
Right.
Yeah, we
Okay.
got one
this
from
is-
August 20th, but we just got one today.
Right,
That was
which is
dated
more
today's date.
relevant.
I only just saw it when I got here. I haven't read it as nicely as I'd like to, as thoroughly as I'd like to, but I did read it.
Okay, I
Are they
just-
here- Is Sean and Pamela here tonight? All right,
Yes.
great, they're here, so they could comment on this if need be.
I just wanted to see, and if there's anyone else that had written a letter that you don't have, I just want to give them a heads up that they should resubmit anything to you.
Absolutely. I only have the letter from Sean and Pamela from August 20th, and another one that I just received when I sat down here today from October 30th, dated October 30th. I didn't get any other letters. Did you guys get any other letters?
No,
One from the 30th is from,
And who they sent it to.
them.
These people.
okay.
Excuse me?
I just wanted to know who was the author of the letter you received today.
Yeah, Sean and Pamela Redfern, I believe.
Okay.
All right. You can come up, ma'am. No, you gotta come up to the podium, please. If you could just identify yourself, name and address.
My name is Nancy Roach. I'm an owner of 9 Bono Court. So we submitted, a lot of us submitted letters to the Conservation Commission when it first came through. Those letters weren't forwarded to you, or we have to resubmit letters to you?
You have to resubmit letters.
So we're not the Conservation Commission.
Okay, we weren't told that. We didn't know that we would have, so we will send you those letters. And regarding the Conservation Commission, just so you know, that first meeting for them, they postponed that one too, the engineering company did. So this is an ongoing thing with them.
Well, when they postponed, they made a request to postpone it, or they? or
I
they
don't,
feel-
I don't know.
All right, so-
I'm just saying, this is the second time out of 4 meetings, 2 of them, they haven't.
The only thing I
shown
can
up.
tell you is we work completely independently
Okay.
from the Conservation Commission, from the Select Board. We're an autonomous board. So when you file something there, we
Okay.
don't get it unless it's specifically
Okay.
filed with us. And we have a portal for that. So
Yeah,
if you want, I'm more than glad to, read these letters. So if you can submit those. And I don't always read them into the record, just because it becomes voluminous. I can tell you that we read it. We'll take a vote to have it become part of the record, which is something I would do at some point with both of these letters. And I presume that the 30th letter is an accumulation of the 20th letter, I would think, but I haven't read the whole thing. It's not. All right, so they're two independent letters.
One comment to the Conservation Commission directing issues.
I'm sorry, you gotta come up. So we're just dealing with some of the procedural stuff at this point.
The original letter was to the Conservation Commission in August, and those were addressing issues for the Conservation Commission. And then there were issues that I rewrote in terms of directing it to the board.
Okay. So the one that's most applicable is the October 30th letter.
Correct.
Okay, great. All right, so I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen, if that's where we're at. We're still looking at a date.
Where do you want to go? We have, I have nothing for December 11th.
What do we have in January?
Break.
Funeral in January.
Stuff for December 11th, don't we? We have wide open.
Nothing yet.
Nothing
Yeah,
yet?
Nothing yet.
What's on the 4th? I mean, is it a busy?
We have
agenda?
40B and we have the 56 units on State Road.
Oh,
that
okay,
day.
yeah,
So I didn't
all
want
right,
to
yeah.
put.
That's all for the
anything-
11th?
Yeah,
That's all for the 11th.
okay, that's the 4th, so.
The 4th, I'm
The
sorry, the
4th,
4th.
yeah, so,
yeah.
okay.
No, put it
So
on
we
that
don't
day.
want
Are
to.
you available on the 11th?
Everybody's available on the 11th.
Attorney Farrar, you available on the 11th in case we don't have a quorum?
I might have to go to a funeral that
Yeah,
day, but I'll be available. Mr. Chair, can I just, I just don't know, this board accommodates people, and I think that's why we're here, to help people. But I just don't understand, when I'm looking at, these people spent a lot of money setting up this. I just think we should deny it. Why are we gonna continue something that they're not here? Maybe they're not gonna be here the next day. Maybe they're on vacation. Why don't we just deny it without prejudice and let them come back? The people that are here opposing this haven't had the opportunity to listen to anything, and yet, apparently, this office didn't get a phone call, and all this work that went into this, somebody just let it slip under the rug? So we don't know, but I would say, why should we pick a date for somebody that's not here? Because the next time they may say the same thing, well, we didn't know, we weren't there, we can't be there. Let's deny, my suggestion would be deny without prejudice, let them file it again, and let them get the notice to everybody. I think that's the fairest thing for all these people that here are opposing it.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we deny, please. I make a motion that we deny zoning request ZAV 25-10 without prejudice.
It requires a second. And I don't hear a second, so that motion fails.
Well,
Unless there's anything else. Do you want to have further discussion on this? I'm glad to hear from you.
I think so.
Mr. Schubaugh.
Before, you know, I mean, just because,
Because we're only
like I
going to be
said,
back.
we've been on,
They're only going to be back again anyway. It's just a matter of what date it's going to be.
Let them pick the date. Let them file, pick the date. Why should we pick a date from them?
Well, they don't pick a date. They have to file it, and then it gets assigned a date, Walter. But still, I see what you're saying. And we'll probably
have to
be back
re-advertise
next
too.
year. We'll probably be back next year anyway.
okay, I mean,
I'm indifferent either way, I'll be honest with you. I could go either way with this.
No, I know.
But I can understand. And
I know.
I
That's
understand,
why-
I feel for both sides, but it's just, historically, this is what we've done. We've given people another chance, just because of the fact that they're gonna be back anyway. But if we don't have a second, then we can't have a vote on that.
Right,
So if you wanna make a motion, you can make a motion that we continue it to another date, and maybe we'll get a second on that, and we'll go from there.
I guess I'm just trying to be consistent of what we've done in the past, but I see that if the board strongly believes that, we can, there's no harm in denying this without prejudice, so to give the applicant an opportunity to refile at a
If it's without
later
prejudice, all they're gonna have,
date. No, I
they're gonna have to pay the,
understand.
they're gonna pay the filing fee and the
And
publication
they have to
fee.
advertise,
They have
right.
to
yeah,
advertise
and
it.
And maybe they'll have a chance maybe to revise the application if they know they have access to all the,
But they don't know,
comments
yeah, maybe,
that-
maybe they'll be in a better position to make, some adjustments if they think to address some of the concerns of the neighbors.
okay. Did you want to
You wanna, you wanna renew your motion?
I renew my motion that we deny this variance request, ZAV 25-10, without prejudice.
prejudice? Okay. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. There's no date, it's over.
You denied it.
We denied it. It's over.
Right.
Well, hold on, but people are just, we're gonna be seeing each other again, right? Very likely, right? I'm not in their shoes, I don't know what they're gonna do, but all that means is we'll probably see each other in 2026. I look forward to it.
Happy New Year.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
Everybody's here for Bono Court? Wow.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't like the application myself, but it's just. The concept of.
Hold on, we're still in session. Excuse me. Excuse me. We're still in session. All right.
Nice to see you, dear.
So, gentlemen, we are now 5:40. We have our other case that's on schedule for 6 o'clock. Is there anything else? Do we have any
Administrative, maybe. you could do
administrative
the
matters?
administrative?
Let's go over the administrative matters if we can. Let me see if I can find this.
I didn't look at them though, but I mean,
Excuse me?
What do I do with that?
Folks, you got to keep the conversations to a minimum. If you could just go out in the hallway, please, just because of the recording system of this is really sensitive, and if there's any conversation that gets picked up, thank you. All right, so moving on to the administrative portion of tonight's meeting. The first matter we have on is review and approval of administrative minutes of October 23rd, 2025. I have no
I
comments,
have no
gentlemen.
comments, Mr. Chair.
I have no comments.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes, administrative minutes of October 23, 2025.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. Second and last is review and approval of comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-2, minutes of September 25th, 2025, 498 Old Westport Road.
I have nothing to add.
I have nothing, Mr. Chair.
Likewise, I don't have anything. Attorney Farry, you have anything to add?
I have nothing to add.
Dr. Agai? All right, I'll entertain a motion, gentlemen.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-2 of September 25, 2025.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. All right, we'll go off the record, gentlemen?
Yeah.
We're off the record. Good evening. The Zoning Board of Appeals is back in session. We're moving on to the second case that we have on the hearings portion of tonight's meeting, and that is comprehensive permit ZCMP-25-2, which was continued from September 25th. The petitioner is Robert Lincoln. The owner is Sherbrooke Farms LLC. The property is located at 498 Old Westport Road, also known as map 48, lot 29. Property is also located in a single residence B district. The petitioner is seeking a comprehensive permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40B, and the Comprehensive Permit Guidelines, 760 CMR 56, from the Massachusetts General Laws and Dartmouth zoning bylaw regulations. The petitioner applicant is proposing a development on approximately 81.8 acres to be known as Sherbrooke Farms, to be located at 498 Old Westport Road. The development will have a total of 156 units of rental housing, including 39 affordable units. The petitioner is requesting waivers from the following zoning bylaws. We've already read these into the record before. I'm not going to read them again, but I just wanted for the people in the audience and the viewers at home to get a sense as to recapping what we've been discussing and more so what the petitioner is seeking for relief. So it's my understanding that tonight, based on scheduling, that we have this on for review of traffic. So the petitioner, I believe, their consultant, or their experts here this evening, and he's going to provide us sort of his overview as to what the impact on traffic will be of this proposed development. So at this time, I would call upon the petitioner's applicant to, the petitioner's expert to come forward and identify himself and make a presentation.
All right. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Steven Saragusa. I'm with Bowman Consulting, traffic project manager in the Taunton, Massachusetts office. So we put together a traffic study in October of last year, in 2024, just to give a bit of a timeline here. And then we received peer review comments actually this morning. Apologies, I should say October 30th, 2025. Which we briefly read through a bit, so I have a bit of knowledge as to kind of what was said and things like that, so we can speak to it a bit for specific items, but we'll delve more into it at a later date. So the traffic impact study that we put together, this was our study area, so briefly just kind of the site to the north of Old Westport Road, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and then the site driveway, which you will see on the next slide, will be staying where it is, which is kind of offset from Lucy Little Road. And then this just gives a brief, although tough to see on this screen, just kind of an overlay of the proposed site on the existing site. And then you see where the site driveway is, again, offset from Lucy Little Road with an auxiliary entrance to the east. So a bit of our methodology here. So the study was done in 3 parts. The first part is kind of just an overall existing condition. So we went out and collected traffic data at the beginning of October of 2024, made sure that UMass Dartmouth was in session, so we captured when the traffic would be the highest. And we collected turning movement count data at Lucy Little Road at Old Westport Road during the weekday morning, which is 7 to 9 a.m., and then weekday afternoon, 4 to 6 p.m. peak periods. We also collected some automatic traffic recorder data out there along Old Westport Road, just to get an idea of kind of the overall daily traffic that is occurring out there. The second part was we collected MassDOT crash data from the MassDOT Impact Portal, and we did that in accordance with MassDOT standards, which is, again, the most recent 5-year period of closed data. And then what that found was, at that time of the data that we used, there was 1 crash at that study area intersection, and understood that after that time, which again is kind of part of the peer review, there was additional crashes out there that we'll also be kind of looking into and making sure that we include in our future response to comments. And then also as part of that, we collected some roadway inventory. So we did a field visit just to make sure that we understood kind of how traffic was operating, what the roadway conditions are, took an inventory of striping, signage, and the like, and then did a capacity analysis of that existing condition at that intersection, just so we can get an idea, again, of how vehicles are kind of moving through there, what the queues look like, and everything like that. The second part of that is what you call a no-build condition, and so we contacted the Town of Dartmouth Planning Department, and as part of that, we asked them kind of what a background growth rate would be, or what an appropriate growth rate would be, and we settled on a 1% growth rate over the course of 7 years is kind of your standard projection, and then confirmed that at the time of the study that there were no planned projects or planned roadway improvements as of October of 2024. Again, we'll reach back out to the planning department as a part of this response to comments, just to kind of double check that that might still be the case, or include anything that we need to. And again, a capacity analysis was done of those future conditions after we grew those traffic volumes by 1%. And that really gives us a baseline of what the impact of the project might be. And then going into the trip generation, which is kind of our build condition. So we use the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the trip generation manual, which is the industry standard for the residential units. And what we calculated was it was estimated about 70 trips during the weekday morning, and then 86 trips during the weekday afternoon peak hours. So that is any peak hour, call it 7 to 8, or 4 to 5, or 7:15, whatever it might be. And then we did not take credit for any deduction of non-vehicle trips, call it biking, walking, public transit, things of the like, just because of what the inventory that's out there and the availability of those things. We kind of estimated that it would mostly be vehicle trips, and it kind of gives us a more of a conservative analysis of what that impact might be. And so again, we did a capacity analysis of those build conditions, adding in those project trips after we distribute them onto the roadway network. And then that gives us kind of what our overall impact might be. And then lastly, we looked at the site distance of the site driveway and that location. And we used the requirements and recommendations from AASHTO, which is, again, the industry standard of kind of site distance and what that all looks like. And so we meet the AASHTO requirements at that location. I was speaking with the applicant earlier today, and we understand that one of the comments that was in the peer review was potentially moving that driveway a bit to the east, which gives a little bit better sight line just given the horizontal curve that's out there. And then also potentially making it a four-way intersection with Lucy Little Lane. So there may no longer be that offset, which again, just makes it an overall safer design. So that is something that the applicant will look into the feasibility of, which I think would alleviate some safety concerns and potentially site distance concerns as well. And so just in conclusion, so no significant safety concerns. Again, talking about the crashes that we identified along that roadway, which again, we will look at as part of this response to comments. Again, the available site distances at that proposed location do meet the standards. But again, if anything changes in terms of shifting that to the east, we will again look at that site distance and make sure that they still meet those standards. And then there is minimal impact along the roadway at that intersection in vehicle delay, vehicle queuing, and the like proposed by the development. And as I mentioned, we'll coordinate with Niche Engineering and their team over there, just to make sure we're on the same page with all of the comments that they had, and then we'll be issuing a response to comments as needed. So with that, I am more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. How do you pronounce your last name?
Saragusa.
Terraguso?
Saragusa, with an A.
Gusa, okay,
Sir.
thank you. All right, gentlemen, do we have any questions of this expert?
Not at this time. I don't have any questions, Mr. Chair.
I have no questions at this time.
I have none at this time.
Okay. Doctor?
I'd like to recuse myself.
All right, so you're recusing yourself from this case, Doctor? Thank you. All right. So you indicated, I just have a couple of quick questions. You indicated that there was a suggestion that maybe you move the entrance to this to the east and put it in line with Lucy Little Road?
If you don't mind me going back just a bit. Correct, and sorry, and again, apologies, this is hard to see if it might be easier there.
All right, that's good there. So who suggested that?
So the applicant, Mr. Lincoln, and him and I spoke earlier today. And he, again, will look into the feasibility if that's something that the town would want. It's not something that is set in stone, but he is open to looking into the possibility of that if it's desired.
Okay. Do you think it makes it a safer situation?
I think coming out of the site driveway, and then also potentially coming out of Lucy Little Road, if you have two vehicles who may not fully be able to see each other. And I think overall, when you have a four-way intersection kind of directly opposite each other that are at stop controlled rather than offset intersection, it just generally makes it safer for all users coming in all directions, because it's also more what you would call, now I can't think of the word, you would expect it. It's more expected especially as you're coming down Old Westport Road. You'd expect to see, if there's an intersection ahead sign, then you'd expect to see you wouldn't expect to see one on one side, one on the other. Just makes it overall safer.
I'm not a traffic expert, but I'm just concerned. Lucy Little Road is a very rural road. It's a poorly lit road. And someone traveling northerly in that section of Lucy Little Road, although there's a stop sign that controls that intersection, don't see it, they're gonna think they're gonna go right across the roadway. I just see it as potentially as a hazard. Now, you also indicated that you did your analysis based on Beaton Road, it was Lucy Little Road and Old Westport Road. That was the only intersection that you did your analysis.
Correct.
Now, did you do any analysis for Cross Road and Old Westport Road, which is a main thoroughfare that leads into Old Westport Road?
We did not, but I know that was, again, a comment from the peer reviewer about potentially kind of expanding that study area. So that is something that we will look at, and we'll confer with them as to the best course of action there.
Obviously, I'll probably wait to speak to our peer reviewer on that. What about Beaton Road and Old Westport Road? You didn't do that analysis there either? All right, so this is all traffic from the north that would be coming south from two different directions, the east and the west of this location. And I think a bulk of the traffic that's gonna be impacting this is gonna be coming, this is just me thinking, is coming from Cross Road, making its way to this particular site. All right. The other thing is this, you calculate the trips at 70 trips and 86 trips in the afternoon. How are these trips actually calculated? If you could just tell me how the science works.
So with ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers, it's a national standard. So what they do is they basically gather data from engineering firms or the like across the country for similar sites, similar sizes, things of that nature. And they kind of compile it all into one trip generation manual. And then that comes up with an average per dwelling unit, let's call it in this case. There's also, linear regression curves and the like, but, so that's essentially just kind of an average rate of sites across the country.
But does that take into consideration the number of bedrooms in each one of these units?
In this case, it did not. For residential developments, the number of bedrooms is not typically used when calculating the trip generation. It's just number of units. That's the data that they get collected is based on units, not so much bedroom breakdown.
See, for me as a layperson, I just find that to be flawed because I don't understand how you can't take into consideration more bedrooms. Doesn't always, but it will typically lead to a greater number of people. More people, more licensed operators, more trips. I don't know. All right, maybe that's why I have to speak to our expert. That's why we have an expert.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, gentlemen, I guess there are two ways we could do this. We can open up to the public now, or we can have our expert provide an explanation and then open it up to the public after that. How do you want to handle it, gentlemen?
I
Mr.
think
Newman,
we
that's-
should open to the public, so at least if they have some concerns and our peer reviews here, he can answer some of those
And
questions.
I think that's what we did on,
Yeah.
on the other case that came before us, correct? All right. So at this time, I'm going to call upon, I already saw somebody raise their hand. I saw you, but I just got to finish my statement, right? So at this time, I'm going to call upon anyone here who would like to speak in regard or ask any questions. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask, if you could direct them to the board, and then we can then forward the question. It's not necessary. I'm sure he's here hearing it. He'll be able to answer it, and he will answer it towards us. I just find that it runs much smoother that way. Excuse me? Yes. And obviously, any questions are going to be related to traffic. That's what this gentleman's science is in. This is where his expertise is in. And that's basically what we're covering tonight is just the traffic on this project. We'll be dealing with civil part of it. We'll be dealing with stormwater
Environmental.
and environmental as well. So that's all going to be scheduled for another night. I don't even know if we're going to handle the environmental part of it, but obviously we're going to see. That's obviously not something that we possess the greatest knowledge in, but we have done it sometimes, not always. But having said all that, again, tonight is just about traffic. So, sir, I'm sorry I don't remember your name. I think it's Mr. Costa, correct? I think I read something from you before. If you can come up, please. And everyone, you have to identify yourself with your full name and also your address, please, for the record.
Jim Costa, 459 Old Westport Road, North Dartmouth. I was going through the information you posted on your website that had been submitted by this company, and it's flawed. I was looking at the traffic. And what I noticed right off the bat on page 6, the information presented is old data. It goes 2017 to 2021. It misses some of the accidents. If you go to that website, mass.crash, DOT, it's an interactive website, and you can do your own search, and you can come up with some information. So the information that, as I said on page 6, is old information. I was able to get information from 2025 right up to this month. I don't know why they submitted that. So I printed up a couple of pieces of paper here. And one instance, you can actually draw a map where, I'll bring this up there with your permission in a minute. It lists all the crashes in this past year, just as from, till this October. And I didn't include it on the map, but there's probably half a dozen accidents down Lucy Little Road. There's another accident just recently in front of your entrance there. And then there's 3 accidents about 800 feet away and 2 fatalities. So with your permission, I'll just bring this up here. Most of this is just a result of my quick search. In addition, I think I got it here. Yeah, I also, when you were asking how far the checks go that he was doing, I was able to pull up an article from the Dartmouth Week, October 11th, 2022, and it lists the most hazardous intersection in town is Old Westport Road and Route 6. You were asking about Crossroad. There's other, you'll be able to look on the map and you can see the Crossroad accidents too. And finally, I'll just bring this up here.
Mr. Chair, I'd recommend that, that Michelle take that information, and then it can get scanned and incorporated into the record
Sure, we
as
can do
well.
that.
Sure.
I'd just like to see what it is. All right, is there any other comment that you'd like to make?
I just have one more thing on the information I think you were discussing on page 15. It was the site distance summary. It didn't match up to the state standards. On page 15, you say no, 430 feet measured. That doesn't meet the requirement, but I think you were talking about moving the driveway. So that's all I have. If you look at that map, you can see, you can pull up all the accidents you want. Most of them are down at Route 6 in Old Westport.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So one of the questions I have, and it's a follow-up, it's basically a similar question to what this Mr. Costa had. Why is it that the analysis that you have here is only from 2017 to 2021? That seems to me to be somewhat outdated when you could have gotten or could have received information from 2021 up to current date.
So it's a great question, and I honestly, I ask that every time I do a traffic study. And the way that Mass DOT and their guidelines operate is that you get the most recent 5 years of closed data. And if you look on the website, Mass DOT and the state kind of lags well behind other states in terms of closing their data and verifying everything and making sure that it is as accurate as possible before allowing it to be used in any type of analysis. So understood that you can get data all the way up until yesterday, probably. But that is unfortunately a shortcoming of Mass DOT, and something we can look into. As I mentioned, we understand that that's part of the peer review, was that there are additional crashes that had happened after 2021. So again, we can look at that and include that in our analysis, and we can coordinate with the town of Dartmouth Police Department if needed, and get any crash reports and kind of include that in any response to comments to make sure that we are kind of getting any data that may have been missed. But again, that's kind of just the way that Mass DOT and their guidelines have us kind of calculate crash rates.
Okay. I'll be honest, I have concern with the fact that the analysis is only Lucy Little Road and Old Westport Road. To me, that's probably one of the routes that is gonna have the least amount of impact or traffic that's actually gonna go to or leaving. People that are gonna come heading south, I don't think there are gonna be too many people heading south on Lucy Little Road. And if it is, they're gonna be limited trips, but obviously, you were given some parameters, you follow those parameters, and there's probably gonna be an opportunity for you to do more analysis, right?
Yep.
Okay. He also referred to, this gentleman, to page 15 of your report. Oh, that had to do with, no, that's page 6. Can I have the page 15 again, please? Oh, I have it here. Can you address the question that Mr. Costa posed with regard to your page 15?
Just confirming that the question was about the site distance, and it's saying it
That's right.
doesn't currently meet, correct, okay.
It's basically, it's his understanding, I don't know what his credentials are, but it's his understanding that it doesn't meet the state guidelines or the state requirements for the site distance.
Yep, so understood. So that is, so it says no in the intersection site distance table. There is it does meet it with clearing of the vegetation and stuff that is along the roadway, along that site driveway, which will happen after construction. And it is a recommendation of ours that that kind of stays clear, all sight lines stay clear after construction and, you know, after everything is kind of occupied and everything like that. But that is why it says no, is because at this time, without clearing any of that vegetation, it does fall right at the recommended distance, but again, clear that vegetation, it exceeds it. And to add a little bit more context to that, the site distance does exceed the stopping site distance that is along Old Westport Road, which, again, essentially means it meets that standard of AASHTO, because if somebody is traveling along Old Westport Road and sees somebody coming out of that driveway, they have sufficient time to stop safely in order to avoid any collisions.
Okay. Let me ask you, is there any proposed lighting that's going to be on this roadway as part of this, project?
I am not aware of any lighting. That would be something that the architect and/or civil engineer would probably put together.
All right. Is there anyone else? Gentlemen, let's start with us first. Do you have any other questions?
I have no other questions.
Is there anyone else out in the audience?
Gentlemen with
Come on up, please.
Good day, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Roy Barlow. I live at 434 Old Westport Road.
What number?
434.
Thank you.
Okay, right next to Blossom Court.
Yep.
All right. So you propose the 70 in the morning and 86 in the afternoon. Is that vehicles coming and going out of the property once it's built?
That is entering and exiting.
Okay, you're saying there's going to be
Excuse me, sir.
154 houses?
Excuse me. I'm just going to ask. The question's posed to the board.
Okay.
And then we can turn to him. So all
Okay.
the questions, you can pose them to us, please.
All right, so, I don't know where you get, if there's 154 units, right, and I believe it's gonna be 1.6 parking spaces per unit, right? So that exceeds, 154, you're talking at least 200, right? Let's use that as a minimum figure, coming out of that unit and then traveling either way up and down Old Westport Road. I think he's also forgetting all the traffic of the college that occurs. So I'm looking at how is the town going to manage that larger volume of traffic that will occur on a daily basis? You're talking about the entrance as well. Having lived on that road, my family, since like the late 1890s, 1900s, and just as the road has been improved to allow more college students to go from, say, Fall River, Rhode Island, to school, I've seen a larger increase in traffic accidents and speeding. How are they going to account for that volume increase? I just see there's a far greater risk of more accidents occurring on a daily basis with the addition of all the increased traffic that would occur with the building of this particular property and the way they want to manage it. Even moving the entrance to the east, so there'd be a four-way, I just see that it would occur, there'd be more accidents there, even because people would be speeding to get to school. I've seen it right in my house. The road's a little slippery. Cars have rolled over. Unfortunately, there was a death earlier this year. I just see that it's a greater hazard by building this type of a facility or this unit on that particular property. I think it's a more risk to the residents and those who travel on a daily basis.
Thank you.
So I think that when you guys consider whether you allow this proposed property or not, I think you really need to take a look at that, because people are not just going to be going down Beaton Road or heading towards Cross Road or to the end and then turning left on Chase Road. They're going to be using Lucy Little Road, because if the traffic's heavy, they're going to try to avoid the traffic, try to get around that. And as you stated earlier, that Lucy Little Road is a very rural road, very windy. My son slid on a patch of ice and totaled his car on it, on that little curve down there now, not next to the old Zala's farm. So I see the town just having to increase the amount of money they have to spend on maintaining that area, and even possibly putting in a light for the traffic as it comes by. That's, and I don't know if you guys want to do that or not, but that's just a consideration that I see as something happening in the future. So, thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to that, sir?
No, yeah, if you can.
Let's see if we can get an answer. All right, so I think the gist of what this gentleman is saying is that although your findings are that there are going to be 70 trips in the morning and 86 trips in the afternoon, given that there's 156 units here that are proposed to be constructed, and there's 1.6 parking spaces, so that's almost 2 cars per unit. And if we just do simple math, that's over 300. How is it that your calculation can be that it's 70 morning trips and only 86 afternoon trips? Is that a fair assessment, sir, of what you're asking?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I know the first part of that, to answer through the chair, was it is entering and exiting trips. So it is combined, the 70 and the 86 is both entering and exiting. In terms of just overall number of trips, so I want to.
Hold on, you gotta explain it to me. When you say entering and exiting.
Correct.
So there's gonna be 70 cars going in and out in total in the morning? Is that what you're saying?
So-
And in the
so in-
afternoon, there's 86 going in and going out?
Combined, yes.
Okay.
That's, yes.
That's
and
peak
that's-
At peak hours. And I take that to what?
So
like
that's what I was,
between-
that was kind of the second point of that was, I want to specify that that is not just during the entire morning or during the entire afternoon. It is during a specific peak hour in the morning and in the afternoon. So again, it could be, 7 to 8 a.m. or 7:30 to 8:30 a.m. Again, or 4 to 6, or 4 to 5, 4:30 to 5:30. So it's a specific hour that will be 70 trips in the morning and 86 trips total in the afternoon peak hours. So not just,
Okay, but when you say peak hours, are we doing this calculation over a 2-hour span, a 3-hour span?
so we do it over 1 hour. So the data is collected over a 2-hour span. So 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., which again is kind of the industry standard of when peak traffic occurs on roadways for people traveling to and from work or school or whatever it might be. And then when we get that data, it gives us what that peak hour is. So again, call it 7 to 8 a.m. And then our analysis takes that data from just the peak hour and then includes the additional trips on top of that to kind of get your overall impact.
But you use this based on information that's compiled as part of some organization that says that this is what you're supposed to use in this formula.
Correct.
All right. I'm a layperson in this, so I just have difficulty, sometimes grasping why it is that we follow some information that supposedly is nationwide. We're Dartmouth, we're unique, I think. This area is unique in many respects. Not everyone has a college right beside them. They don't have a mall right near them. They don't have Route 6 not far from them. So I just don't know whether or not they're using that, but that's why we have an expert. We're gonna have to ask them those questions, okay? Thank you.
Yes?
Thank you, sir.
No, thank
Appreciate
you.
your time. Thank you.
Mr. Costa.
It's the 459 Old Westport Road. Yeah, I just don't agree with his peak hours. I live by the college, and 3:30 to 5:30 are like peak hours. That's when the traffic backs up from Route 6 to Chase Road, and it backs up on Cross Road to Route 6, and it backs up on Ring Road to Old Westport Road. So that's the peak hour in the afternoon, 3 to 5:30. Then you get your evening classes, but they're not as bad. And that's when the traffic backs up from Cross Road and it backs up from Old Westport. And so those peak hours, then the
What is your belief that the peak hour is in the morning?
in the morning, it's 8 o'clock, 8:30 to maybe the classes start at 9. So maybe 8 a.m. till 10, those hours you're throwing out there are not, you're missing everything. You're missing the action.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Come on up, sir.
Phil Maderas. I live at 5 Blossom Court in Dartmouth. So I don't know if he's used that survey to conduct with a college during graduation ceremonies, move-in days, and all these other events they have at the college. I know when I go home, I got to go all the way down, cut through Beaton Road to come back because I can't go by Cross Road. It's traffic everywhere. That's 2 days of that. Now you're adding 150 cars, well, 300 cars. Forget to be bumper to bumper. It's already bumper to bumper now. For graduation, and he didn't say anything about that. Move-in days, graduation days, and all that stuff.
You do understand that these studies are done based on averages, right?
Of course. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Averages can be in Wisconsin. This is Dartmouth, like you just said a few minutes ago. This is very unique. There's no Route 6 runs, lateral with Cross Road, Old Westport Road, all that stuff. Traffic's going to be insane.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to clear the record, we share the same last name.
No
but
relation.
I don't think we're related.
No relation.
No relation, all right, thank you. Just want to make that clear, that's all.
Right.
Yeah. Some people say we're all related.
Yes.
But anyway, is there anyone else in the audience? Yeah, we got some more hands. Ladies, we'll have the lady go first. I'll give you an opportunity, sir.
Carol Cabral, I live on 411 Lucy Little Road. I thought I saw something up there about what dates you did the traffic study. I know I'm supposed to talk to you. I saw people out there the other day, I think they were counting cars going by. What date was that happened? This week, was it?
So my understanding is that, based on his presentation, that the data that was collected for some of this was done in October of 2024. Now, if there were people there recently, I don't know, but we can ask them that. If there's anything, we'll ask them that.
That's what I wanted to know.
Okay. So, just to verify, I don't want to speak for you, is it correct that this information was collected in October of 2024?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And now she's also asking about that she's seen people out, it appeared that they were counting cars. Is that something that your firm was doing?
Nothing to my knowledge from our firm.
It's also possible our peer review guy may have been engaged to do some of that, I don't know.
Okay.
So no one from your firm was actually out there doing any analysis?
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. We'll explore that with the next expert, okay? Sir, come on up.
Good afternoon. I'll be brief.
Sorry,
Joseph
I didn't hear
Louise.
your name, I'm sorry.
Joseph Louise, Strawberry Lane, 5 Strawberry Lane.
Okay, thank you.
The report is stating that there's 156 units, is that correct?
That's correct.
And the traffic study is saying, it's funny that the traffic study totals up to 156 trips total, just to mention that. The other thing that's not being mentioned are all of the services that are going to be required to enter and exit that building, and the consolidation of all of that in that one area. So if you were to take 156 homes in Dartmouth, spread them across the whole town, the impact would be totally different. In this highly condensed area, this is going to make a huge impact on everything. Okay, not only just that one intersection, which I come out of every day and have to look 10 times to be able to cross that road. The speed limit is 40 miles an hour, but that's why we have a police officer almost there every day, because 40 miles an hour is now 50. So the impact is going to be significant with that. Accidents will be increasing, and myself and my neighbor have pulled several people out of accidents just on Lucy Little Road in the past year. So that will increase, I'm sure. The other thing is the infrastructure that's going to be required, upkeep of roads, the intersections that are already in traffic jams now are going to get worse. So it's going to be a huge impact to the town, not to just that area.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on up.
I'm Virginia Louise, the other half, at 5 Strawberry Lane. So I'm looking at what we have down here for bedrooms. And if we just stay with one person in one bedroom, 2 people in 2 bedrooms, 3 people in a, or 3 people in a 3 bedroom, going through all the numbers, that's 250 people, and I'm sure it's going to be more than that. So one of the questions I have is frequently students run up and down Old Westport Road. They do not run on the sidewalk, they run on the road. We have bicyclists that are bicycling. Not only do they bicycle on Old Westport Road, they stupidly bicycle on Lucy Little Road. That is a very dangerous road. We're going to increase the amount of traffic. There has been fatalities that have occurred on that road and serious accidents. And now we're going to have a tremendous amount of people. We're not going to have sidewalks on one side of the road. People are going to be walking. So we have sidewalks on one side of Old Westport Road. We don't have them on the side where they're building. So I don't know that people are going to go across the street and at least walk on the sidewalk. There's no lighting. So there is infrastructure that's going to have to be addressed. There is more than just road traffic. There is pedestrian traffic. And so I think on both of those roads, on Lucy Little particularly, and definitely on Old Westport Road. So I think that's something that needs to be considered. I didn't hear any of that in this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do to elaborate on that? I don't know if there's a question per se, but
So if I'm missing a question, please, yeah, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer. I guess in terms of just overall, I think the math was 250 people. So understood that that is the potential maximum in the buildings total. I don't want to speak to who is going to be occupying the buildings or anything like that. I don't imagine that will be 250 people of driving age, but again, I don't want to speculate, and I don't want to talk about who will be occupying or types of, whether it's rentals or whatever it might be. I don't know. That is not my area of expertise. But I will say that, again, kind of going back to how trips are just overall calculated, it does take into account, and I want to say this also, not just trips from the residential units themselves, but also deliveries or things of the like, Amazon, which is becoming obviously more and more prevalent, and DoorDash and things of that nature. So all of these surveys are not specific to just the residential units, but rather they just count driveways. And whether that's an Amazon truck that comes in or out, that's counted as a trip. And so that is included in kind of these calculations. So it takes into account all of that. So I don't know if that adequately answers any question that may have been there, so I apologize if it did not.
I think you did touch upon it. I guess one of the things I need to grasp is that, let's assume it's 250, just for the purposes of what she put forth. Just human behavior, 250 people don't decide to leave at the same time in the morning and to go to wherever they're gonna go. That's just not how things really play out. That's an unrealistic expectation. Now, if there were an emergency and everyone needed to leave, maybe. But it's not likely 250 people will leave at the same time. It'll be staggered even throughout the rush hour. But you're saying, or peak, you call it peak hours, right? So between 7 and 9 a.m., based on your analysis, it's 70 trips, both in and out.
Correct. Or in one of those hours within 7 to 9 a.m.
But again, and I don't want to call it an algorithm, but the information or charts that you folks use are for residential type units, right? But residential type use. But I don't know whether or not it takes into consideration the effects or the type of structure that it may be. This is not spread out units. I don't know how much that would impact, that type of behavior would impact the number. These are 156 units that are stacked upon one another like, an apartment. It's an apartment building. It's what it is. It's an apartment building. I don't know. Kind of just trying to get a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, ITE, this trip generation manual, it has a multitude of kind of land use codes is what we call them. One of them being the one we use is a kind of a multifamily housing unit, which is your typical apartment / condo type of building. And then even within that data set, there are subsets for low-rise, mid-rise, high-rise. So it kind of breaks it down even further between that. So what we looked at was, and it's in the mid-rise kind of subset there. So it is very specific. The data that is in the trip generation manual is very specific to apartment buildings of a certain height, and that's kind of how it's calculated. The data that we use does not take into account, single-family houses of that. That's its own land use code that was not used here.
So to arrive at this, you actually looked at a 3-story building with X number of units?
Correct. I think the mid-rise, I think it goes from 4 to 6 stories or 7 stories or something of the like, right? So, and then low-rise is 1 story to 3 stories, and then high-rise is anything above 7 or 8, something. So it's a very specific kind of subset of data.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay,
But,
thank you.
if I may, Mr.
Sure, certainly.
I know the ITE 12th edition, right, came out like recently. I don't know, did you have a chance to look at the data? Did you see any changes in the?
So briefly, and I think across the board, kind of with all land use codes and also this land use code that we use here, it actually is less trips on average, right? So
we'll stick with the 11.
you think about how people are moving now,
I
more bicyclists now than ever, or more people walking or taking public transit, especially when you get into certain communities that are well-versed in transit and bike facilities. So overall, the number of trips kind of decreases when you get into the next trip generation edition. Yeah.
Surprise, yeah? That wouldn't be surprised.
Is there anyone else?
Hi, Melissa Gagney, 489 and 483 Old Westport Road, which is right across the street. So we live on the corner of Lucy Little and Old Westport. And I can tell you, regardless of time of day, trip count, whatnot, it's tough to pull out of that driveway. People anticipate when I'm going home to pull in that I'm gonna take Lucy Little, and when I don't, and I extend past it and try to turn, they'll go around me. Like, they don't pay attention. Same coming home from Westport. If we take our Lucy Little Street, we have to take the right and we have to take an immediate left. They'll just about hit you. Like, they don't pay attention. They drive fast. So a safety even now is my concern. Never mind adding that on a diagonal or directly across. Like, they don't look for oncoming traffic. It's not about the studies, but just what's currently taking place, even it's not safe. And I've been hit at Crossroads in Old Westport before. So
Thank you.
I speak from experience. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? All right, so I think that we've sort of exhausted some of this at this point. We're going to call upon our expert, and he's certainly going to provide us some suggestions, I'm sure, and maybe even address some of the concerns that the audience had. So there's our guy. Come on up, please.
Want me to keep this up just in case we need to get back to
Oh,
it? or-
absolutely. Oh, actually, there was one more thing I wanted to ask, just 1 second. If you could go to the second frame that you had up there,
Let's go back here.
right, oh, no, come
No,
back.
You're good on the side.
Right there. What are all those little white speckles at the top there that kind of go along the perimeter of that vernal pool and the other, what is that?
Definitely out of my area of expertise. Those are wetland flags, or I believe those are wetland flags, and where kind of the boundary is.
But they're actually not that visible, they were just superimposed on that, right? Yeah.
It is, yeah, it's part of their kind of drawing, the existing conditions drawing, and that's kind of how they do it. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Excellent.
It's Mr. Bandini, right?
Correct. Thank you. Thank you to the members of the board for having me this evening. Jeff Bandini, excuse me, Senior Project Manager with Niche Engineering. So Niche Engineering was tasked with the peer review of the material that was provided that Mr. Siragusa had explained for a little bit. So again, I know you've referenced the peer review letter, and Mr. Siragusa referenced it during his presentation, that we put together a peer review based on transportation industry standards, and also our own review of the traffic impact study and our own site visit, which we conducted earlier this week, which may have been referenced earlier, if that helps to answer any questions off the bat in terms of what the folks out there were doing.
So people from your firm were actually out there doing
Correct, yeah.
analysis?
So part of what our scope included was to, verify the information in the study and also come up with additional potential comments that the applicant may want to address as part of their application. So As Mr. Siragusa mentioned, we submitted our peer review letter actually earlier this morning that contained 23 comments that Niche Engineering put together. I can highlight most of those. A lot of them have been hit on, which is great, but certainly happy to go through. I have at least 16 that I wanted to highlight. Some of them have already been addressed. But again, happy to take any additional questions that the board may have or comments from residents or whoever through the board this evening. So the first comment we had was based on the number of units. There was some different information that was being presented both on the site plan that we reviewed as part of the application package and the traffic study. So we just wanted to verify that the applicant was presenting the most recent information. I know sometimes during the development process, the number of units happens to change, and a lot of the traffic information doesn't necessarily get updated every time there's a change of a handful of units or what the story may be. So I want to make sure that when we're looking at things like trip generation and overall impact and things like that, that they're addressing that in terms of the proposed overall number of units as it stands today. There were some comments about the number of trips that the site is anticipated to generate. And Niche generally does not have an issue with the transportation and trip generation that was presented, aside from the number of units, which is one of the factors that are used in determining those trips. And also, I know you mentioned the 12th edition as well, which was one of our comments. But mostly related to not only just the amount of trips, but the percent increase of trips that the site is generating compared to what's on Old Westport Road now. Typical industry standards is anything that's a 5% increase or more is quote unquote significant. So significant can have obviously different meanings in terms of what the overall impact is. Just a quick sort of calculation in terms of, and again, the number of trips could change based on the unit and the 12th edition and so on and so forth. But generally the increase would be about 10%. So that doesn't necessarily mean there needs to be any sort of like wholesale mitigation based on that significant increase, but we do want to pay attention to certain things, not only just the vehicle trips, but things that go beyond that, including the pedestrian, bicycle, and transit and safety that has been mentioned so far earlier. So would request that the applicant comment on the percent increase as it relates to the development, as it relates to the existing and projected traffic volume on Old Westport Road as a whole. One of the comments we had was about the proximity to UMass. I know that was discussed a little bit earlier. The study, given the parameters of the study, granted, did not include significant intersections to the east, aside from just the Lucy Little Road. So no UMass, no crossroad further east. And so part of what we wanted to do was see if the applicant was able to uncover any sort of additional studies that may have been submitted to the town that may have looked at those intersections and gained some sort of knowledge in terms of what maybe has been proposed in the past in terms of mitigation. Again, not necessarily to put the onus for improvements entirely within this applicant, but just to understand what mitigation options could be available if the town deemed that necessary as part of the approval for this development. One of the other comments was about the data collection. I know Mr. Siragusa mentioned the automatic traffic recorder counts that were taken in October 2024 when UMass Dartmouth was in session. Typical Mass DOT guidelines suggest that 48 continuous hours of data be taken. The traffic study included only 24 hours. Again, maybe the information gleaned from that isn't necessarily of primary importance. However, noting that UMass Dartmouth class schedule fluctuates from one day to the other. If it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday could be higher, Wednesday could be lower. If it's a Wednesday, Thursday, vice versa, so on and so forth. So in this case, we think that 48 hours worth of data would be at least available to us to understand what the fluctuation in the daily trips could mean, and therefore give a different idea about the project's overall impact. So we would request that information be collected. And again, this information was collected in October of 2024. We're now a year later. In terms of has UMass Dartmouth made any modifications to their class schedule, enrollment, commuter traffic, on-campus services, things like that that could drive the overall volume either increase or decrease over the course of that past year. A lot of the information here in the next few words I'll mention is on the crash data. A lot of what was mentioned before is in our peer review letter. We did mention the MassDOT Crash Impact Portal, which is available online, in terms of being able to understand not only the safety at the proposed site location, which Mr. Siragusa mentioned there was one crash over a 5-year period, but understanding the complexity with the entire frontage of the site, basically. Meaning, yes, there was one crash at that particular driveway, but what's happening 500 feet up the road? What's happening 800 feet up the road? And we did note that there was a fatality there in the last 6 months back in May of 2025. So again, understanding what sort of mitigation the applicant team could offer in terms of vehicle capacity, safety. Is it, resurfacing the roadway? Lighting was mentioned earlier, restriping, pedestrian access, and things like that. We would look to understand what would be proposed to offset the impact of the proposed project. I mentioned the trip generation a little bit. Don't want to dive too much into that, but happy to answer any other questions that you may have.
Well, I guess one of the questions
Sure.
I would have is, are you in agreement with their trip generation calculation? Is that, following with the guidelines that are usually followed in this type of science?
Yes, definitely. And I Mr. Siragusa gave a great explanation of the different types of data that are available. The one thing I will piggyback on is that the 12th edition is available, which I know we discussed a little bit. Industry-wide, we have seen a little bit of a decrease in number of trips. That doesn't necessarily mean it's trips overall. It may be trips during the peak hour. Again, schedules may have changed, right? Instead of doing a morning coffee run during the peak hour, you may sign on to work and then decide you're going to go at 9:30 after the peak hour, right? It doesn't necessarily change the overall volume, but it just changes how those trips are assigned throughout the day. So again, looking for the applicant to provide a little bit more information as far as the new addition goes, just so that we can review the comparison, whether it's, an increase or decrease, and what sort of overall impact that would have to the project area. So again, I won't dive too much into the questions about the trip gen unless the board wants to discuss further. One of our comments was about the Lucy Little Road intersection. And I know Mr. Siragusa talked about the geometry related to where the site driveway would be located. That was one of our comments, was for the applicant to at least address if that driveway could be moved. Again, understanding what it means. Obviously there's other considerations, right? From grading, civil engineering, stormwater, things like that we want to make sure that we're being sensitive to, that go beyond just the geometry of the location or the site distance or things like that. So all we ask is that the applicant review that information and deem whether it's feasible or not. But again, as part as the trip distribution of trips going to and from the site goes, a lot of the trips, or most of the trips, or all of the trips really, were generated to the east on the site, and no trips were generated, south on Lucy Little. We heard from a couple residents this evening that said that, people may use Lucy Little Road to circumvent some of the more congested areas, especially if those happen to coincide with trips that are occurring during the peak times. So we want to understand, what that impact on Lucy Little Road could be if it were included as part of the study area. And again, it doesn't have to be vehicle capacity mitigation, right? Like not every intersection is going to have a signal or a roundabout or a stop sign, but are there enhancements that could be made to sort of offset that mitigation, whether it's, signage or striping or lighting or things like that. We did have one comment about the site parking, just to make sure that ITE does have their trip generation manual. They also have a parking generation manual to understand whether the parking that's proposed on site is sufficient for the land use. I do want to hit a little bit on the site distance and site access, because there was a question about whether the site meets and or exceeds the AASHTO requirement. The AASHTO requirement is the stopping site distance, which is sufficient based on the information provided. It's the intersection site distance that is the recommended criteria that is not met, that the traffic impact study stated would be met if sufficient vegetation were to be cleared to meet that recommended site distance. So part of what we wanted to recommend as part of our peer review is for the applicant to put together what's called a site triangle diagram. That basically, it's a diagrammatical understanding of the available sight lines and basically a determination of how much of that vegetation needs to be cleared in order to meet that site distance. And the reason why we ask for that is we want to make sure that the area that's being proposed to be cleared to meet that recommended site distance is area that is controlled by the applicant. Basically, you're not proposing to trim vegetation on abutting property or areas that are owned by the town. And of course, having to go through additional approval in order to clear that vegetation to meet those site distance requirements. So part of our peer review letter requested that the applicant team comment on being able to provide that diagram and speak a little bit to the ability to clear that vegetation. One of the things mentioned earlier was trip generation as it relates to transit. The traffic impact study was completed in October of 2024, which was prior to the completion and opening of the South Coast Rail, which is about 5 miles east of the site. I happen to ride that rail line to work once in a while. There's a lot of people on it, which I think is a great thing. So I wanted to request that the applicant at least consider having, shuttle service from their site to the South Coast Rail. There may be a lot of single occupancy vehicle trips that are, going to and from the site. And if we can eliminate, a handful or a dozen of those single occupancy vehicle trips by providing, one shuttle bus run that goes from the site to and from the South Coast Rail, that could alleviate some of the traffic congestion that's presented in the report and some of the concerns that we've heard this evening. One of the site, this wasn't necessarily hit on because I know we've been mostly speaking about traffic and not necessarily site access or site circulation or anything, but there is a secondary driveway that's proposed a little to the east. Wanted to clarify that is being considered for emergency vehicle access use only. Wanted to make sure that that goes with the ability for emergency vehicles to access the site, not only through the site driveway, but additional means as well. A couple of the last comments I have for you this evening were hit on a little bit. One was the pedestrian access. I know we may not have the site plan available this evening. I know there was one slide that addressed it slightly, but there was some proposed documentation for proposing sidewalk and crosswalk information. So I want to make sure that that's being proposed as part of the applicant and not necessarily something that the town would be responsible for constructing and maintaining in the future. Wanted to inquire about its viability in terms of inclusion as part of this development project. The last few I want to hit on are mostly internal circulation, which I know we're not necessarily hitting on this evening, but as it relates to the trips to the site, wanted to talk about the on-site amenities building that was included in the site plan. As Mr. Siragusa mentioned, a lot of times that's all encompassing, right? Like one Amazon trip into the site can deliver packages for everybody, so it's not necessarily multiple trips per day. However, the amenities building, at least from our understanding, was unclear about what those amenities would actually include. A lot of times buildings like this tend to have on-site amenities to reduce vehicles off the site, like on-site laundry service or a coffee shop or a cafe or something like that, something for the residents to use. But oftentimes, if those amenities are on site, sometimes the opposite impact can happen, right? Like if it's a coffee shop that people desire to want to go to for some reason, it could induce additional trips to the site, which is, again, it's opposite intended consequence, but would request that the applicant provide some additional clarification on that. And my last comment for you this evening was to request and or clarify that the traffic engineer, that Mr. Siragusa and his team are working with the applicant and the civil engineer to confirm that the proposed signing and striping on the site are conform to the manual on uniform traffic control devices signage in terms of, stop signs, crosswalk signs, pedestrian ramps, things like that, those sort of on-site amenities to make the site function presumably the way that it's intended to and not have any sort of safety hazards as it relates to the on-site circulation. So again, happy to answer any questions for you this evening. Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, any questions?
I have a question that the chairman asked earlier. If you lined up the entrance with Little Lucy, is that safer or not safer? You know what I mean?
Yes,
You
yes,
got
I
a
do.
four-corner
Yes, I
intersection.
do. Yes, I do. And there's many different considerations, right? Part of our recommendation was for, and I forget which particular comment this was, but looking at it from a site design perspective was the first thing that I noticed, right? Was that there was a large site frontage with the amenities building right up front. So it appeared to me that if the applicant desired or the town desired to shift that driveway to meet Lucy Little at a four-way intersection, that could be something that could be achieved by some preliminary investigation, find out whether that was viable or not. To answer your question, that was part of our recommendation because I found in my experience that having a four-way intersection is more safer, especially considering the offset between the two locations is only about 100 feet. So when you have vehicles like, say, for instance, you have a F-350, for instance, with a landscape trailer that's turning left, that has a pretty long length, right? So you have that turning in at the same time that, say, another large vehicle is turning in to Lucy Little. There's going to be some overlap in the vehicle turning path between those two vehicles. So that's mostly what we want to understand is, yeah, there could be additional conflicts if these intersections are offset. And to Mr. Chair's point earlier about if you have vehicles traveling northbound on Lucy Little, if they see something that appears to be a roadway in front of them, they may not stop. So there's certain ways that we could circumvent that, right? We could have additional signage, right? We could have do not enter signage that's placed on the side driveway that's facing Lucy Little Road. We could have additional striping, additional lighting, things like that. So there's ways to offset that mitigation in terms of if you were to decide to align those driveways.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I might.
Sure.
I just want to bring the chair's attention to, and I think it's relevant for this conversation. Might be relevant for some of the other topics as the hearing progresses. But the site eligibility letter that was issued by Mass Housing on June 6, 2025, that was the subsidizing agency authorization to, or finding the site eligible to proceed with a 40B application, does have a list on pages 2 to 3 of about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bullet points, in which Mass Housing said the following issues should be addressed in the application to the ZBA, and the applicant should be prepared to explore them more fully during the public hearing process. And I would note that at least 3 of them relate to traffic study, and both the kind of off-site traffic kind of coming in and out of the site, as well as the internal. So I just wanted the board and your review consultants, as well as the applicant, to be also aware of what Mass Housing's expectations to the applicant in addressing concerns that the town had raised during the site eligibility comment period.
Thank you. All right. So again, break it down in small pieces for me. 70 trips in the morning, you say is an accurate number. What's the impact on that on Beaton Road? What's the impact on that on Cross Road? What does that translate to for lay people?
In terms of, 70 in an hour, right? Like that's more than 1 per minute.
Well, he says it's 70 increased trips in the peak hours between 7 and 9.
Yes. So that's 1 single hour within that 2-hour time frame.
So there's additional 70 trips every single hour.
Correct. And again, there's different ways to break it down, right? So first of all, there's the entering, exiting, right? So not all of those vehicles are going to be 70 vehicles going eastbound on Old Westport Road, right? Like some of them are entering, some of them are exiting. One of our comments was to understand how many of those trips would be down Lucy Little. Could be a handful, right? Could be 5 or 10% of that. You could take that for what it's worth, right? It's more vehicles down Lucy Little, but it's less towards the more congested area, like you said. Our job and our task is to understand the overall impact so that we can understand if there's things that need to be done to offset that. And that was one of our comments as well, is like, let's look at what's been proposed at UMass Dartmouth. Perhaps the other study that addresses the UMass Dartmouth location looks at those other intersections as well, and may have recommendations in terms of what may be suggested at those to improve vehicle capacity at those locations as well.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Did you want me to elaborate more on what that
I think
means?
for now it does.
Okay.
All right, so we have members of the audience. Is there anyone who would like to come up and speak? We'll ask Mr. Bandini just to step back for the moment, and then if you can answer the question. Come on up, sir. Again, address the questions to the board.
Once again, Joseph Louise, 5 Strawberry Lane. Just a real quick question. With all of this additional volume, which I think we're only touching on a very small portion of it, and the totality of the impact of the total area, not just that one driveway, I'd like to know, if possible, at some point, at what point does this volume trigger a traffic study that shows that you need an intersection lighting? Okay, so lights either there at UMass because of the increased volume. And I think that's where we're headed with this type of volume. Thank you.
I think that's a good question. Yes?
Yeah, happy to answer that, of course. So in the industry, there's something called a traffic signal warrant.
Traffic signal what?
Warrant.
Warrant, okay.
Yes. Basically, what it does is they have 9 different criteria, right, based on, and not all of them are volume related. But basically, it looks at different volume thresholds that would suggest that a traffic signal would be warranted if that is deemed the appropriate solution. So there's the different types of warrants we were looking at that would be volume-based would be a 4-hour warrant, an 8-hour warrant, and a peak hour warrant. Mass DOT suggests that they are only approving of intersection signal installation if an 8-hour warrant is met. For a development such as this, which is residential, right? The distribution of trips are confined mostly to the peak hour. It's unlikely that a traffic signal warrant would be met at this location, given the existing volume on Old Westport Road and the vehicles coming out of the project site driveway based on the 8-hour warrant. It's something that could certainly be explored. More data would be required to determine that analysis to make sure that that signal warrant wouldn't be met. And again, there are other thresholds. There are other methods that Mass DOT recommends if a traffic signal, even if it is warranted, to pursue instead, such as roundabout, 2-way stop control, 4-way stop control is a popular one these days. So there are other things out there, but again, understanding the volume threshold with respect to a signal warrant would be the first step in determining if a traffic signal would be necessary at this location.
Thank you.
When you use the term 4-way stop control, you're talking about
Yes.
4 stop signs?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Sort of rolls off the tongue for me.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to come forward and ask a question? All right, doesn't appear to be anyone. So where does this leave us? Are they going to they're going to do some further studies at some other intersections for us, and they're going to follow some of the suggestions that you've made?
So again, we submitted our peer review letter, which was our part of our scope. So my understanding, based on the presentation Mrs. Siragusa gave earlier, is that they will be providing formal responses to our comments.
Okay.
Some may result in additional study. Some may just be a clarification. Some may be, providing the information that we asked for so that we can internally compare whether it's significant or not.
And you guys will be communicating back and forth before you come before us next time?
Happy to do that if that's the board's request.
Okay. Well, I think it should be.
I think so.
Yes,
Eliminate
exactly.
some of the timing,
There's still some things that
two professionals and.
I'd like to know what's going on at the other 2 intersections. When I say the other 2, like.
This is UMass and Crossroad particular?
Yeah. Those are significant, I think. Not to, take away from the traffic at Lucy Little Road, I'm sure that's concerning, but I think that these trips, they're gonna have a tendency to go north, or come from the north, or head north, more so than they're gonna go south. Not that there aren't gonna be any going south, there will be. Some will go east and go south, some will go almost directly south down Lucy Little Road. But a majority will be either going up or down Beedon, no, a majority will be up or down Cross Road, and some up and down Beedon. So I think that that's a big point that just needs to be addressed, so we can get a sense as to what the queue is gonna be like in those areas.
Okay.
All right? There's a couple things I need to get on the record. One of them is, and this is to the members of the board, I think we should acknowledge that we have provided the Dartmouth Water Pollution Control Facility Historical Influent Flow and Loading Study. That's been submitted, and that's gonna be part of the record, gentlemen. We've also received Delano Apartments' final report of 7/23/2025. In that one, we've got an example of the flow analysis. And there's also a 2016 MS4 general permit with some appendices. So I'd like to acknowledge all three of these are now part of the record. Is there anything else, council, you think I need to address aside from those three? That you're aware of?
As far as documents for the record?
Yes, documents for the record.
I don't know, Michelle, was there any other submittals, like peer review or, public comment or anything that you received? No.
All right, I have another concern, gentlemen, and that is that some of the funds that are to be provided to us, although we voted that they were supposed to provide us a one-third payment on this. I am a little concerned about the fact that, as of now, I think the applicants only provided us a very small payment. So I think maybe their counsel may be able to elaborate on that with us.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Tanya Trevison with Mirioni Shaughnessy and Udy, representing the applicant. Yep, I did speak with Mr. Lincoln, and he indicated that by the end of this week, there should be a third deposit made into the town's fund for the peer review.
All right, I just want to make sure that you're aware that obviously we need to have our experts in order to be able to answer the questions so we feel comfortable. And so that we can move the process, forward. But if we don't have that, then I don't want the town to be held, being footing a bill that we've engaged someone for and there is no payment for, or there are not funds allocated to it. So at this point, I don't want to leave it too open-ended, but it appears to me that there's still the third that needs to come forward on the civil and the stormwater part of it. And at some point, there's going to be a third that we're going to need also for Stantec.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough.
Mr. Chair, I just note, it probably would be helpful for the board, particularly given how both the state and local regulations, 40B regulations are worded, if the board votes on a date by which those funds are required to be submitted.
Okay, so what is the next thing, what are we doing next on this, gentlemen? Are we going to schedule this for these two experts to come back with an ability to answer some of the suggestions or some of the recommendations made by our expert? Or are we going to move into the next phase of this, which is the civil, and then have them come back at some point? How do you guys want to handle this?
At this point, I don't, if I may.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Sure. So on the traffic, it sounds like there's going to be some back and forth, some response letters.
Yes.
That probably from the board's time for holding a hearing is probably not going to be a significant amount of time. At this point, I don't believe a stormwater report has been submitted yet, has it?
It hasn't. I spoke with the engineer, and they anticipate submitting it the end of the week of, not next week, but the following, so November 10th or November 11th.
Okay, so at this point, because, so you had voted for the full traffic review funds to be submitted, only 10,000 have been submitted, and with the work that Mr. Bandini's done, there's probably an invoice incoming that may take up a significant chunk. So I don't know until the town receives that invoice, how much is even left. So that was less than half of what was requested for peer review. And then no civil has been able to begin and won't be able to begin, nor stormwater, nor water or sewer until some of the funds come in. Yes. So, I mean, some amount, I know they're saying that some funds are coming in. I don't know, I would recommend that the board
Well, we already made I thought we made a ruling that we
Yes.
wanted 1/3 of this stuff up front.
Right, plus all of the traffic review is what you had voted. So at this point, I suggest that you vote a date certain, because the way the regulations are worded is that if the applicant fails to pay the review fee within the stated time period established by the board may deny the permit. So, no one wants it to go there. I've only had one other permit I've ever advised a board on where they've had to potentially raise that as an issue, and I don't think it's going to go there with this applicant. But I do think that in order for the board to preserve its rights, that you should state a date certain by which they should submit the funds.
I'm open to any suggestions as to when that should be. I would think that the traffic should almost be paid, it should be paid in full by now. We can give them until the beginning of next week to make, today's what, Thursday? They gotta pay it by Monday. And then we want the third on the others by no later than next Wednesday. They, and I don't mean to be abrasive, it's just that we have another 40B that's pending. I've made it clear to them that if the funds are not paid, that we're not gonna hear one consultant and not have the ability to have our consultant to be able to provide us with further information or be able to elaborate on whatever the expert has testified to. So, and I also don't want to be in a predicament, at least not on my watch or this board's watch, where we're going to be on the hook to pay an expert, and I don't know, the project, whatever may happen to the project, or we get too far ahead of things and the money's not there. I don't want to be in a situation where I was participant in a situation where taxpayers are going to be on the hook for an expert. So, I'm waiting to hear from you if you've got something to elaborate, if you can provide me.
So, as I said, I understand that a check was going to be deposited or given to the town to cover 1/3 of both Niche's proposal and Stantec's proposal.
And the full amount, the remaining amount for the traffic, correct?
So I wasn't aware that there was an amount remaining. They made a $10,000 deposit for traffic, so I'm not sure what's remaining on that.
Well, how about we just do this? When we get invoiced, they got to pay it within 7 days.
Well, the
Or-
issue is the funds should be in the account before the work is done.
Fair enough. Okay.
I think, I don't know, Michelle, if you have the minutes from the September hearing, but I think that the vote of the board was the full traffic amount
But let
and
me ask you, the
1/3
figure here for
of
the
the other
traffic,
two.
the traffic for 23.2, is that an actual sum or is that just an estimate?
That's the estimate, that's the estimate.
Okay. And at this point, do you know how much we've expended?
The first invoice has not yet been received, but since we're at the end of October, it's likely, I'm assuming, to come in at the beginning of November, So I don't know that Niche has generated that
Is
yet.
it going to be an issue for us to get the remaining sum paid into the account by Monday of next week?
I don't know what the amount is, again.
13th, I think.
It would be the full amount of the estimate was 23,200, and 10,000 has been paid to date.
No.
So 13 what?
2. 13.2.
2, okay. All right, I will notify my client.
Okay. And then what about the third? We're looking for the third to also be paid sometime next week as well. The third on the civil engineering and stormwater, and also on the water and sewer with Stantec. And I
Right,
think-
so 1/3, like I said, a check for 1/3 of both Niche's proposal and Stantec's proposal.
It's
was gonna be
coming when?
submitted.
When?
It was supposed to be by the end of this week,
Okay,
so.
all right. So do we need a vote that we get it no later than next Wednesday? I can't make the motions.
No.
All right, so just, let's discuss it.
Next Wednesday is the 5th, right? Okay. So I think it's pretty, if you're saying the end of this week, so if we give another 3 days, and the full traffic, it's not, I think they exhausted probably half of the estimated amount for the traffic. So I think to pay the full amount for the traffic, which is another 13.2, and then the 1/3, you owe, 48,840. And I think that's what we need to vote on, that.
That's right.
They'll be paid by, or deposited by November 5th. Just that, or 6th. I don't know if it's going to make a difference one day.
Whatever you guys feel comfortable with.
before the end of next week, so.
I just don't like laboring with this, I'll be honest with you.
I know.
And we've had, it's just the other, we were laboring with the other one, and now we're laboring with this one. It's just, this is a significant project, and they're gonna be expenditures.
We understand that, and to be clear, the applicant has never paid this much in peer review fees before, and he's had much, much bigger projects than this that have cost $30,000 to $50,000 total for all the peer reviewers, so.
And I can
This is a big
appreciate
nut.
that, but I'll be
Yeah.
honest with you, I've never paid as much at the grocery store as I do now, either. I go to Home Depot and I'm shocked. Everything is just shocking these days, so.
And I'm sure your billings are not the
That's just,
same as those.
no. It's just everything, I get it, right? I get it. But this is where we're at. This is not my area. I don't know if it's too much. I don't know if it's not enough. All I do know is this is what they're asking for. These are the people that were engaged. We're here. This is where we're at. And I'm not gonna go backwards on this at this point. I think we're gonna vote, and that's what we're gonna move forward with.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may, for future reference, if you do consider other 40Bs in the future, many other towns put things out to bid and get multiple proposals and ask the applicant what they think and would they be willing to,
Okay. And
So
now-
there are
hold on, hold on.
choices.
And it's your understanding that that didn't happen here?
That did not happen
that-
here.
that
It was
is
just
not-
impressed upon the applicant.
So I would like to state, just on behalf of your town administrator and assistant town administrator, that a significant amount of effort was made to solicit bids, and in fact, some firms declined due to volume of work they had, et cetera. But there were, in consultation with your town planner, with your DPW director, there were efforts to, there were requests for proposals from other firms. So it's not accurate. Now, sometimes a town or a ZBA or its staff may consult with the applicant, and it's not required to do so. So I would, on behalf of your staff, state that they didn't just pick these firms. Stantec actually does the utility work for the town, and so therefore, there was a priority given to Stantec for the water sewer. But with respect to the civil stormwater traffic, there were other inquiries made.
Okay. Again, this is where we're at. Hopefully, these estimates are just high, and the end result will be less, because whatever, if we have extra money, we give it back.
Yes.
Right? We're obligated to give it
Yes.
back. I'm not here to hurt anybody, but I'm being told that this is what it is, so I'll entertain a vote, gentlemen.
I make a motion that we ask the applicant to deposit the remaining of the traffic consultant fees estimated at $23,200, and also 1/3 of the niche civil engineering, stormwater, and Stantec water sewer, 1/3, to bring the amount to up to $58,840. So I believe you did deposit $10,000, so you need to replenish the account with $48,840 by November 6th. That's a week from today, so.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. All right, so we've labored that. So we need to pick another date.
Right.
So what are we gonna do next? We're gonna do
Right.
stormwater? She said engineer, if I heard correctly, the engineer should have a report sometime next week. So a week from this, no.
No,
A week from the following week, so sometime by the 14th or 15th of November?
So we would ask to be put on the December 11th hearing schedule for, and
Yeah, we could
I
do that.
had spoken with Attorney Murphy about doing environmental at that point in time, but if the board would prefer to do another topic, just because the public has been so concerned about the environmental factors, we thought that that might be the best thing to address next.
But do we have somebody who's gonna address environmental for us on our side?
No, so for the site eligibility letter, which I was referencing earlier, I was checking that as well. And it does state that one of the items that the applicant should be prepared to explore during the hearing process It states the applicant should provide the town with a full assessment of any required environmental remediation related to the previous use of the site. So my understanding, in talking to applicant's counsel, is that that's what they would do, is come in and make that presentation.
Right. But that's actually, a lot of that's within the purview of DEP, correct?
Right, right.
So,
But-
and they have to make this thing better. If it's bad, I don't even know
Right.
what's there, but if
So-
it's bad, they have to make it better.
Right, there was a lot of comments that came in, both from staff, town staff, as well as public concern about the conditions on the property. And so that's why Mass Housing did indicate that, at least in order to inform the town and officials and the public about the status of that they should provide a full understanding to the town. Ultimately, it doesn't go into any decision that you make, but because it was concerns raised by both town officials and it was there. So I don't know how much time that would take. I don't know if to hold the hearings, if that's only going to be, I don't know if that would be a 15, 20-minute presentation, then there would be comments if you also want to begin civil and stormwater at the same time. Like I said, at this point, Mr. Gabriel has not started any review because you don't have the stormwater report.
Let's put them both on, and if they don't have the stormwater and we don't have our consultant, then we can always just put it on for another date, but at least we will handle the DEP issues that, just so that people in the community can feel comfortable of what it is that's going on there. I know this, we had another 40B, and there were some significant DEP issues with contaminants on site, right off of Route 6, the preserve, right? The preserve. They have, from my understanding, they've gone through a heck of a lot there in cleanup. So that site is better than probably it's been for the last 50 to 100 years, based on what the developer has done on that site. I don't know, I'd like to think that this is nowhere near as significant as that, but we don't know, and obviously they're gonna tell us what it is.
Right.
All right.
And it's all regulated.
So have you guys,
by
you guys have been working with DEP on this already?
Yes.
Okay.
So December 11th, is that a good?
Yeah, we're gonna have both on, right?
December, I believe.
December 11th at 6 o'clock.
The other one is a different date.
No, when I say both, I'm talking about the stormwater.
Both topics,
So-
I'm sorry.
So
I
that's
thought you
both
meant-
topics, I
I
didn't
thought
make
you
it
meant
clear.
applications, I
So
apologize.
first will be the environmental concerns, and secondly will be stormwater. All right, good.
Okay, ready?
Yeah, I'll entertain a vote.
I'll make a motion that we continue comprehensive permit ZCMP 25-2 to December 11, 2025.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, the ayes have it. So to everyone here in the audience, this matter's being continued to December 11th. We're going to move upon a different issue. We're going to, actually, two issues potentially. One is the environmental concerns that may exist there on the premises and what they're going to do to abate those concerns. And number two is going to be the stormwater analysis that's done. It's part of any development. You have to ensure that there's going to be containment of any water that comes onto that site, that is going to be taken care of and treated on that site before it makes its way into the groundwater. So we'll have experts to that as well. I think there's one gentleman that wants to come up and say something. Just,
Just a question, December 11th, what time?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
All right, just so everyone knows, at this point, what we've decided that we're going to do is at 5 o'clock, we'll handle the usual matters that come before us, typical variances and special permits for people that want to put on a pool house or extend their deck or something like that. At 6 o'clock will be the 40Bs. And we're alternating them so that it's not, it's not overwhelming for us, because there are a lot of moving pieces here. I think you'll all agree. All right, thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair.
Is there any other business we need to discuss, gentlemen? If not, is there something else you wanted me to add?
No.
All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it.